I get a lot of emails from new designers who are struggling to get their games published. And in this video, I'm going to go back to basics to see if I can offer any help and advice. I'm Adam Porter. I designed the games Pikoko, Doodle Rush, Throne, Big Bazaar, Compromat, Quazzle and Zooligans. And currently, I exclusively license my games to publishers. I don't have any experience in self-publishing, even though that's a perfectly valid approach to take. But today we're going to focus on licensing your game to an established publisher and letting them bring it to market. Now, I've covered many relevant topics previously, so please go back through my channel and watch some of the other videos which cover a lot of this stuff in more depth. In the emails that I receive, I tend to get asked big questions. Essentially, the emails tend to run along the lines of, I've designed this great game, but nobody seems to want to publish it. Can you help? Now, it's really hard for me to assist with that sort of request. I've got many hours worth of video guidance on this topic on my YouTube channel, and it's hard to offer concise advice to such a broad query. So I'm going to try and break it down into smaller questions. What are the areas which people are struggling with? Everybody I've shown my game to really loves it, but publishers just aren't interested. So I'm going to ask you a challenging question here. Is your game good enough? Genuinely. Reach deep inside of yourself and ask yourself if you've created something special. It's not a school project, it's not a gift for friends. You're trying to create a commercial product here, and it's a competitive field with thousands of games being released each year. Is your game good enough to rise to the top? And if you tell me yes it is, I'm going to ask again, but is it though, truly? How many people have you played it with? Were they family and friends? A real professional would go out of their way, organise themselves and show their game to strangers. Many strangers. And they would listen to the feedback that they received. Have you done this? Truthfully, did you really listen? So what did they say? Did they tell you that your game was fun? Did they look like they were having fun? Did they ask to play it again? Well, great. Then I believe you. You've got a good game. We're getting somewhere. I promise I'm not asking this stuff to be mean. I throw away 80% of my prototype games and I never show them to publishers. The vast majority of my ideas just aren't good enough. But yours is, we've established that. So the next question is your game marketable? Games have changed a lot in the past century, yet the games which land in my email inbox often look like something from the 1950s. Here's the Landlord's game, the precursor to Monopoly, back at the turn of the 20th century. At the top right there is Babbage's analytical engine, a proto-computer. On the top left we have Henry Ford's Model T, the first mass-produced car, and on the bottom left, an early telephone. Leaping ahead some 30 years, the Landlord's game has become Monopoly. Early proto-computers are now massive constructions and telephones are becoming more commonplace. In the 1950s, we're still a long way off home computers, but telephones and cars have become a little bit slicker. Risk is a really popular board game. Jumping ahead to the 1970s, the most popular video game is Pong. Board games were essentially simplified spins on Monopoly or Snakes and Ladders. Roll to move around the board and hope not to land on the most punishing spaces, or you might end up missing a turn. They were often themed around a popular film or television program of the time. In the 1980s, people were enjoying Donkey Kong on their home computers and getting together with their friends for a game of Trivial Pursuit. If they were really posh, they might make a call on their massive brick phone. 20 years on and things are looking a little bit more familiar. Video game consoles are big business, everyone's got a Nokia, and board games are strategic and satisfying, even if they do always tend to have bored-looking historical dudes on the cover. And that brings us to today. Look at how far we've come. Look at that phone, that computer, the car. Look at Zelda Breath of the Wild. Look at Wingspan. So tell me again, why does your game feature roll and move and player elimination? Many people are out there trying to design the next big board game without playing anything published after 1980. Play some modern games, play lots of them. Join gaming clubs, play games from every genre. Only by immersing yourself in this hobby will you understand it, and only by understanding it will you create something desirable. Okay, so you've reassured me, you've played loads of modern games, your game is solid, it's play tested, people love it. So how do I find a publisher who's going to look at my game? Well, the information is all there on the boxes. Look at your game shelves. Who is publishing the games that you love? Who's making stuff a bit like your game? You want to find a publisher for your game? That's how you do it. There is no big secret. These publishers have websites and Facebook pages and Twitter and Instagram. They are not hard to find. Check out their websites. Many will have submission guidelines for designers. Most will accept submissions, but some won't. So respect that. Don't send unsolicited emails to a company who's specifically stated that they don't like that. But send plenty of unsolicited emails to the rest. Perhaps I'm being a bit gung-ho there, so don't approach everyone. There is no point pitching a party game to a war game company. Prioritise companies where you think your game would really sit comfortably with their existing catalogue. But I've emailed publishers. I never get any replies. Yeah, me too. Don't give up. Email some more. There are key times in the year where publishers are looking for games, and it's different for every publisher. You might just have missed it. But if there's a major trade fair or a board game convention going on or coming up, you can be sure that publishers are arranging meetings with designers, actively looking for games. Now that's a good time to contact publishers. Even better if you can actually attend the convention, then it's a great idea to just ask for a meeting. Now it's worth putting some serious thought into your email approach. Publishers don't have a lot of time to read all this stuff. They receive emails like yours on an hourly basis. You need to make it as easy as possible for them. Keep it short. Describe your game in a couple of sentences. And I mean that, 2 sentences. Be strict with yourself. Post 1 image of the prototype. Again, I mean it, just 1. Include a link to a 2-minute video. I'm becoming a broken record here. 2 minutes, no more. It doesn't matter how complex your game is. If you can't describe the hook in 2 minutes, nobody is going to be able to sell your game. Now, I'm too old to truly understand the appeal of TikTok, but if there's one positive that seems to have come from it, it's that people are learning to get their point across clearly and concisely. If teenagers can do it, then you can do it. Send a sell sheet. A 1-page PDF with basic info on it, the name of the game, the age range, the duration, the hook, the image. Keep it simple. The publisher doesn't need to know how to play your game at this stage. If they want a rulebook or a prototype, they'll ask for it. If possible, it is best to arrange a meeting at a trade fair or a convention so you can show the game in person. Gen Con in the US, Essen Spiel in Germany, UK Games Expo are all great opportunities, but there are many smaller conventions all over the world attended by publishers. But I can't make it to conventions. Is it really necessary? Well, no, you can pitch by Zoom or email or Skype, but nothing compares to meeting in person and demoing with a physical prototype. Why can't you make conventions? The travel is costly and time-consuming. I feel for you. Genuinely, it's a big expense. But this is a business transaction. Inevitably, there are going to be costs up front for designers. There is no greater learning experience for a game inventor than attending a game convention or trade fair. Nothing else compares. But I can't draw. Should I hire an artist? I'm thinking of commissioning somebody to make some miniatures for me. No, please don't. It's wasted money. The publisher won't use the art that you've purchased and it might even turn them off. Publishers don't need to see miniatures. Tokens or cardboard standees will suffice. Search the internet for Creative Commons art or clip art that's available for free. Your prototype doesn't need to look pretty, though you should probably start learning to do some very basic graphic design. It's going to help you a lot. Your prototype needs to be legible and clear and understandable. So a publisher is interested in my game. They're asking me to pay a fee to take a look at it. Should I pay? No. No, genuine publishers won't charge you to assess your game. Research who you're speaking to. What games have they made? Have you heard of them? How do they look? How highly regarded are these games? Can you find any reviews? Anybody can set themselves up as a publisher, and sometimes it's really nice to get involved with somebody who's up and coming. They're likely to be enthusiastic and give your game far more love and attention than a massive publisher ever would. But if they're unproven, you could be setting yourself up for a disappointment. I should point out for total clarity that there are legitimate board game agents out there who will charge a fee to assess your game and see if it's worth their time. These organisations are rare. They're not a common route to market for most designers. If you encounter such an organisation, make sure you ask them what games they've been involved in bringing to market and which designers they've worked with. And only if they genuinely have a proven track record should you ever consider using such a service. Can I send you a copy of my game so you can test it? Or maybe just the rules for you to read? I'm really sorry, I don't often get time to playtest my own games at the moment. I'm a dentist in the middle of a pandemic. Board game design is not my main job. If we ever met up in person at a playtest group, I'd be delighted to play your game. But I'll tell you what, you are welcome to send me a sell sheet or a 2-minute video of your game, and if I get a chance, I'll take a peek at it. How's that? Will a publisher steal my idea if I show it to them? Should I trademark my concept? Well, this is a frequent question, and it's one that I don't have time to cover in detail here, but please do watch my video on how to protect a board game idea. In all honesty, the simplest answer is don't worry too much about it. If you've researched the publisher properly and chosen somebody with a track record, then the chances of idea theft are practically zero. You've got a lot to gain by sharing your idea. So how long should I wait for an answer from a publisher after I've submitted my game? Well, during the pandemic, all publishers have been affected differently, so it's a hard question to answer. I find that some publishers currently won't respond at all, and others seem to just be on hold. How fast a publisher moves depends whether they are a small company with only a couple of employees or a large company with multiple layers of staff and procedures. I have a game which has been under consideration with 3 different companies for over 2 years. When I approach them for an update, they tell me it's still under consideration. It's a shame when a publisher doesn't respond at all, but it's sadly not an infrequent occurrence. So I would prepare yourself for that possibility. Checking in with them after 3 months or so seems reasonable, but personally I would never chase up more than once after making an unsolicited submission. I don't ever want to come across as desperate. If I'd had a positive contact with a publisher and things were looking promising, then everything went quiet, I probably would check in a few times, maybe every couple of months or so, before finally giving up and moving on to other things. So can I pitch to multiple publishers at the same time? Yeah, absolutely, that's standard practice. In the first instance, you should spread your net wide. Once you've got some interest, you should be honest and upfront about it and tell the interested publisher that there are other interested parties, and then keep them updated on any developments. Now I'm going to close by saying that you've got to understand your niche. There are some board game genres which are notoriously difficult to get interest in. So abstract games like chess or checkers are really hard to market because they rarely have any artwork or a setting to allow them to stand above the crowd. Word games like Scrabble are difficult because they tend to need significant overhauls for each different language. Many publishers aren't interested in sports-themed games. I'm told they've just never sold well. But just because it's challenging doesn't mean it's impossible. If you find the right publisher, it might happen. Gigamic and Hook have big success with abstract titles, and you've all seen how successful Azul is. Word games crop up all over the place with small publishers, and occasionally you'll see breakout successes like Bananagrams. Baseball Highlights 2045 was a big hit for Eagle Gryphon, and Portal are soon to launch their football management game 11. The truth is, like any fledgling business, you've just got to do the work. Research, research, research. But the great thing about it is that most of that research involves playing loads and loads of board games with brilliant people and attending amazing conventions. I mean, how cool is that? Let me know in the comments if you've got any other topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, and I'll see you next time. All the best.